Hi, this is Jenny Brav, and today I really wanted to have an open-ended, free-form conversation with you about the times we're in. So this is a slightly different format from what I'm used to, and usually I do either tapping, sometimes with some talking integrated. I do some guided meditations, somatic tips. But here I really wanted to pause and take a step back and really get an overview, hopefully to help us feel a little less overwhelmed and on solid ground for these intense times we're in. And I know with the channeled messages that I've been getting, they give me and us little glimpses and bite-sized pieces of wisdom. And looking at those messages, and also I've been getting a lot of intuitions, insights, both in the messages that I channel and record, but also while I'm working with people and going through my days and in meditation. And feeling into all of it, I feel like there's an arc, and sometimes we can get lost in the weeds when we're in the day-to-day of all of this. So, of course, since I'm recording this and it's a video and not a live, the conversation might seem one-sided at the onset, but I hope that you can respond and engage with me in the comments. You can reach out to me individually as well. And so, in terms of the times we're in, and I don't have like a very clear structure for this conversation, so bear with me. I'm trying something new. This is something else that I was feeling guided to do in terms of, for me at least, there's really something about voice and speaking not so much from head and structure, but from that intuitive channel. And so that's part of what I want to be looking at and exploring. So we are in this period of death and rebirth, and some of us have been through many periods of death and rebirth. Or this one, I know for me, this one has been going on for at least 3 years and had a number of different, like, big things that I was completing in that period, like finishing and publishing my novel. Also, I ended up becoming a first-time homeowner, and that was its own process, and spiritual teacher, and clearing a lot of ancestral trauma around home and land and displacement. So that all came up the first year of me living here in different forms that it took, including mold and bed bugs and smoking tenants. So it was a lot for me to work through. And and then this past year was really for me around integrating my activist self, my healer self, and coming to a place of service that wasn't tied up in urgency, wasn't tied up in needing to use my own life force energy to help others. Also was free from survival energy of any kind, where I can really lead and serve from a place of groundedness and joy and lightness, even in times where many people are being harmed by what's happening And so that's a good segue in terms of this death and rebirth. What is dying is an old way of being in the world, and this has been many decades in the making. And in spiritual realms and energetic realms, nothing is linear. So it's more like peeling layers of an onion. So the mind wants the death and rebirth to be a one and done. And okay, well, I did the dying, and where's the rebirth? Or where are my butterfly wings? And really, in my experience, it's different permutations. We can go from caterpillar to caterpillar goop to start feeling our wings, and then there are echoes of the caterpillarness or the old structure that comes up that wants more attention. And because of that, it might seem like rather than the old structures crumbling, it might seem like we're really seeing a resurgence of that. For example, part of what is in the process of dissolution are old paradigms of power over and under, of domination, of colonization of other people's knowing and land, wisdom, very patriarchal, especially in our society, white supremacy, patterns of needing to suppress people's indigenous languages and connection to nature. And it's very much tied to competition, comparison, very binary black and white thinking, all about keeping up appearances. How do people perceive us? What will people think? And so that is dominating the news cycles right now. I mean, it's really all of the shadow, collective shadow is front and center. And part of what's happening in this period, too, from the messages that I'm receiving and things that I'm seeing other channels say as well, is the veil is lifted. We no longer can pretend that it's not happening, that we can't see it. I mean, some people can, but we're really being invited to be clear-eyed about what is happening, not go into spiritual bypass, but also not hook our own nervous systems and heart and energetic vibration into what is being presented to us, both collectively and individually, because there's so much mirroring happening in both. And connected to that is a time of karmic completion. And in order to have karmic completion, which for me just means that we are closing old agreements, contracts on a soul level that we came in with to heal and clear. And again, that is both individual and collective. So that could be ancestral beliefs, patterns, traumas, wounds, childhood traumas, wounds, which lead to limiting beliefs and coping strategies that were adaptive at some point, but then become maladaptive and start really creating the opposite of what they were intended to when we don't update them to our current situation. And also, if we believe in past lives, this is also a time to complete anything that is unresolved from past lives, which is why it might feel like we're in the cauldron, because the current situation brings to the surface all of the things that are still unresolved. So again, we are in an accelerated spiritual time. I call it spiritual boot camp. And again, both in the collective and individually. So we are seeing there's wars, there's a lot of chaos, uncertainty, and also a lot around fuel and how do we get our fuel. So again, collective, we're seeing that very, very clearly in terms of our energy sources and where they come from and how they have been for many, many decades source of war and conflict, but also individually, how do we get our own and run our own life force energy? And we are being shown all the places we learn to leak energy to and try to source energy from to get a sense of self, of safety, of worth, to get validation. So all of that is currently in the process of dissolving. And each of us is on our own unique path and journey with this. So there's the overview, there's the general guidelines of where we are at right now. But then we are really, really being asked to trust our own knowing about what that looks like for us individually. And some of us are still in the dissolving, the letting go of. Some of us are still in the goop. And I say still, but there's no judgment. It is all perfect. Wherever we are is exactly where we're meant to be. There's no better than, worse than, because we're letting go of that linear, competitive, comparative thinking. So we might be in the goop. I know for me, for a very long time, I felt like I was just in a fog. Everything was flat, like a very long winter, and things are just starting to thaw. And I feel like I'm reconnecting to an aliveness, but it's a new form of aliveness that's wanting to be birthed through me. And so in the emerging or rebirth phase, that can also look very different for each of us. I know that right now, both astrologically, also because we are in the year of the fire horse in the Chinese zodiac. Many of the meditations I've been doing and people I've been following are talking about how fast things are moving and momentum and forward new next steps. And I know for me, every time I listen, my guides, my intuition has been reframing it for myself as inward rather than forward. For me, all of the movement that's happening, and there's a lot, but it's all an inward shift. So in whatever we're moving towards, what seems to collectively be a through line, and again, that might not be exactly the same for each of us, is this invitation to reclaim energetic sovereignty over our life force energy. So again, we've been healing and clearing the ways that we've learned to give away our energy to others, to beliefs, to doing. It can even be to our work, it can be to passion. But when we leak energy to these things, and there are ways to do the exact same things without leaking energy from a place of sovereignty, but it's transactional. We're doing this and we're expecting something in return to feel safe, to feel enough, to get validation. And in this new permutation, we're being invited back into right relationship with our energy that's just flowing for the sake of flowing. Like a river isn't trying to get somewhere or prove something, or isn't going to flow only if it knows that it's going to contribute to the ocean in some way. No, it just flows and everything else stems from that. And if there are obstacles, it flows around. So we're being invited into this different relationship that is process oriented rather than outcome oriented, that is about authenticity rather than appearance, about truth, being invited back into the moment. And another important quality of the old was that the mind was very much the one in the driver's seat with having control over our actions, determining what we could do, not do, what was safe, what wasn't safe, was in hypervigilance. And here we're being invited back into our bodies, our heart, and we're being asked to really tend to honor our nervous systems and let our nervous systems be our gateway into our yes, into our no, into embodiment. And so I'll do a longer meditation on this, but just quickly, you can do this with your eyes closed or open, but I invite you to really feel your feet on the ground. And if they're not on the ground, feel free to shift positions so that you're really feeling your feet on the ground. And imagine that there are energetic roots going from the bottom of your feet, going all the way down to the center of the earth and plugging in to the nourishing energy of the earth. This is also a time that's all about prioritizing nourishment. And that can be figurative or literal. I know for me, all of a sudden, I've been wanting to make everything from scratch. I don't really have a garden, but I'm wanting to find planters for my little deck and plant things. So just feeling that connection to the earth, the abundance, the generosity, the interconnectedness, the cycles. And both the earth as a quality, but also the earth where you live, feeling yourself tapping into the relationship you have with it, or if it doesn't feel like you have one, feeling into that possibility, then bringing that earth energy up through your feet, up your legs, gathering in your lower abdomen. And then from there, imagining that there's like this central channel, plumb line, a thread going from your pelvic bowl, your tailbone, up through your spine, up to your crown, and then connecting upwards into cosmic energy, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars. And feel that line going through the center of your body and connecting you downwards and upwards to the earth and the cosmos. And again, maybe move your body back and forth and finding your own center. And knowing that right now, the main request from the universe to us is to notice when we get off balance, when we get pulled out or maybe pulled into thoughts, which is not this plumb line, it's up here, but really disembodied and amorphous, or into other people's energies, or into the news or social media distractions, shoulds, to-do lists, doing tasks, fear or collapse. And then gently with compassion, we are being invited to bring ourselves back. And again, this is our main task right now, is notice when we get pulled out and coming back here. And then when we're back in this place, there is not a lot of effort or even any effort required. Because this thread will help guide us to maybe spiraling inward, like me right now, or forward, or wherever we're meant to be. It might be anchoring into nourishment, pausing, resting. As long as we're aligned, then the line will move us. And within this line, we can also infuse it with whatever quality we want. And again, I think I'm going to do a separate guided meditation on this. But to start getting a feel for it, I've also been getting a lot of messages about how a lot of what we were thinking about manifestation and intention setting was stemming still from the last little residue of that time of mind. So we were still, wanting to visualize, but there's still some controlling happening with the universe, or like something that's outside of ourselves that we're wanting to bring in. And I know there are practices about really embodying that for ourselves and being at that vibration. And one of the practices that I was channeling was of infusing this central line and channel with whatever you're wanting to bring in or wanting more of. So let's say you're wanting to feel more ease or more abundance. Just infuse that line with the quality of ease. And you don't need to know what that feels like. Just say, I'm infusing this line with the quality of ease. And then sense, feel, imagine that either you or your higher self or your guides or the earth, cosmic energies are strumming your chord. And it might be multiple chords. I have recently been imagining a harp and then infusing the harp, the different chords, with a few different qualities I was wanting to have more of, and just feel that vibration just strumming through your entire system. And then bathing your neural pathways, your nervous system, and every cell in your body with that quality, let's say of ease or peace or higher vibration or clarity or creativity or completion. And feel that rippling out into your energy field. We can do that individually. We can do that for the collective as well. So I think I'm going to stop there. That was very meandering and not linear at all, not led by the mind. But please, I'll be curious to hear how that went. Comment, and as always, subscribe if it was helpful. Like, that's helpful for the algorithm and for this to find the people that it's meant to find. Thank you so much.